guys, welcome back. So about a week ago, I have promised that I would have dropped like one big review covering Enola Holmes, Ratchet, and The Devil All the Time, which have it's been some time since those films have shown, and 2020 being the year that just keeps on giving, my system crashed and I lost the footage. So I'm just gonna give up on that and move on, because I feel like too much time has passed since those films have came out and so many people have already covered them. Needless to say, I really enjoyed Enola Holmes. I thought The Devil All the Time was a solid noir type thriller, and Ratchet was an unnecessary remake that could have worked much better if they went with a whole different character. So that should cover those three right there for you guys. Yeah, so it's been a crazy week. My boyfriend accidentally stepped on Cap here and turned them into the Winter Soldier, so now I have to get a new one. Yes, just clean. So with all of that said, I decided just to move on and cover something a little more recent, and it's relevant to the season. It is the Halloween season. So what I'm going to do today is just cover all of the recent films that were under the banner Welcome to Blumhouse. There were 4 of them in all, and I'm just going to give quick reviews on what I thought of each of them in the order that I think they deserve to be in, because these all 4 films weren't that, epic. I was really hoping for more, considering these were all Blumhouse productions, and it's the Halloween season. But these were a bit of a letdown, with the exception of maybe one. So let's get into the films from Welcome to Blumhouse. Starting off with number 4, The Lie. And this one, actually, I'm seeing that it was actually done quite in 2018. It was actually made quite in 2018, so I don't know how come they put it under this, but here we go. A father and a daughter on their way to dance camp when they spot the girl's best friend on the side of the road. When they stop to offer the friend a ride, their good intentions soon result in terrible consequences. And this one was directed by Venus Sud and starred Peter Sarsgaard, Morella No, and Joey King. Kids can be pretty stupid. As kids, we all did some really dumb shit. But this was a level of stupidity I just could not get behind, and it caused the entire story to just fall flat on its face. So I'm gonna get spoilerish with these guys. I don't know how many of you have seen all 4 of these films, but I'm gonna touch on a few things as to why these movies, had their ups and downs. And starting with The Lie, we have a film here about a young girl who is dealing with, the movie starts where they show you Joey King's character. Of course, Joey King, most famous from the Kissing Booth 1 and 2 recently. Her character had a really happy childhood up until her parents divorced. We are not sure why they divorced, but we just cut to them being divorced, and she is unhappy, of course, about that situation. So her father is dropping her to dance camp, as we said in the plot. They pick up her best friend, who is a little bit more out there. She's kind of flirting with the dad, that sort of thing. And I guess it's just a mess with us, the audience, to make us wonder if there's something going on there. They stop on the side of the road for a whiz, and only one of them comes back. So now the parents have to deal with this, because right off the bat, she says that she pushed her friend into the icy cold river. Now, this could have been something really interesting. The first act is pretty intriguing, because they don't even leave it up to us to figure out if this girl fell accidentally or not. It's just revealed. So I was somewhat shocked by that. And I was like, okay, this could be good. Let's see where this is going. Maybe we have a nice psychological thriller on our hands with this character. Maybe she's a lot more messed up than we think she is. But from that point on, this film just drags. Now, visually, it looks good. It looks decent. It's not a big budget film. It's really only a couple main locations, their house, maybe a couple city locations. I'm not sure where this film was shot, but that's about it. But it looks good. And the acting is not bad. I mean, we have some really talented people here. But that said, this story, first of all, it drags on and on, you know, and every time you sit there and you're waiting for something darker to happen, something else to reveal itself that might add tension to this, we get nothing. What we have here is a whiny teenager who just doesn't think things through, and not giving away the ending is just, it's so stupid. It is so ridiculous and so stupid. This girl watches her parents suffer for her sins, and because they have a couple moments where they seem like they're leaning on each other, which is what anybody would probably do in a situation like this. You would look for somebody to confide in, somebody to console you because they're worried for their daughter. She looks at that as, oh, my parents are getting back together and that sort of thing. It's so dumb. Maybe if this character was younger, maybe if it wasn't a teenager, it would have worked. I don't even know, but it's just, it's so much. The writing is boring. The story, it just drags. This is supposed to be a thriller. There's nothing thrilling in this. We just have this reveal at the end that I'm sure, maybe not by watching it, but I'm sure by me talking about it, you guys probably figured out what the ending is about. And it's just such a waste. It's just, you know, fwah, 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 fwah. It's that kind of ending. It's just terrible. And you feel like you just wasted an hour plus of your life watching this come to this finale. If I had to recommend a much better version of this film, I would say go watch We Need to Talk About Kevin. I think that's the name of the entire film. Go watch that instead. That is so much better, and it's a solid psychological thriller that messes with you from beginning to end. Go watch that instead. The Lie, for me, gets a 3.5 out of 10. Just no bueno. Which takes us right into number 3 on my list, Evil Eye. And this one is about a superstitious mother who is convinced that her daughter's new boyfriend is a reincarnation of a man who tried to kill her 30 years ago. It has 2 directors, Ilan Dasani and Rajiv Dasani, and it stars Sanita Kadori, Sanita Mani, and Bernard White, as well as Omar Mascati as Sandy. This one was another letdown for me for various reasons. I went into this expecting more of a supernatural thriller, where the first one we thought it was going to be psychological. I'm like, okay, this is going to be supernatural. With a name like Evil Eye, it's definitely going to be some intense, you know, maybe some ghost possession type thing going on here. What I got instead was a metaphor for domestic abuse, for the trauma that can be suffered by such abuse, and how victims need to try and deal with that trauma, lest they pass it on, you know, to their kids in different ways. It's a solid metaphor, solid allegory, but the way it was executed just, I mean, I'm going into this expecting a horror or a thriller, and I'm getting these long, drawn-out stories with moments of glimmer of hope here and there, that just unfortunately fall flat. Now, Sanita Kadori, who she originally starred, she came out in Mississippi Masala. She hit it really big there. Most recently, I saw her in Jessica Jones. I think it was season 3 as Kit. She's a very gifted actress, and she's actually the strength of this film. She is the strongest acting factor of this movie. The other characters here, her daughter, you know, the relationship between the daughter and the mother is quite believable, because this is a East Indian family, and what we have here is her mother wants her to settle down and get married because I think she's nearly 30 or something like that. You know, that is part of the culture. They definitely believe in family and marriage and that sort of thing. A little old-fashioned there, and her mother wants to set her up with someone. And on the way to a blind date, she ends up meeting somebody else because her blind date shows up really late. And she falls for this guy instead, you know. And the guy seems to have it all. He's from a wealthy family. He seems really nice. He wants to take care of her, which is kind of always a red flag of a bit, because he's like, quit your job, I'll get you a better apartment. You know, those are huge red flags. I don't understand how that girl didn't see that. But anyways, he wants to do all this stuff for her, and this is what kind of sets her mother off, because her mother is deeply superstitious in her beliefs of things like zodiac symbols and when you're born and how that can affect a person, you know. And then her mother is also dealing with her own past traumas, so the two is kind of meshing together, and she gets it in her head that this guy is the reincarnation of a man who abused her years ago. Without, I don't know if it makes sense, should I just give it away? I think you figured it out. But the problem with this is, for me, the guy, the actor, I think, like I said, his name was Omar Mascati. This guy is in no way scary. He also has zero charisma. This guy is supposed to be suave, sexy, you know, confident, rich and confident and all that sort of thing. But his line deliveries are awful. It's so flat and so passionless that he's supposed to be angry here, or you know, he's supposed to be like, okay, well, I'm giving her a gift, she doesn't want the gift, and you feel like, oh, there's going to be some tension here because we're seeing signs of that, you know, that abusive nature. And it's nothing. I'm not getting anything from the actor to connect to, you know. It's like it brought me back to Sleeping with the Enemy, where the husband character, nobody would suspect that guy of being that way, you know, but he's very charismatic, and we, the audience, can, you know, maybe see that there's something a little sinister under the surface. You get nothing from this guy. This guy has the personality of a wet paper bag, and that's it. So I was never really afraid for the daughter. And he doesn't even have the physicality, honestly. He's this tiny guy, you know. It just never felt to me like they were in any real danger. Even when things were revealed and we had our quote-unquote epic final battle sort of thing between all of them, I never felt like they were in any real danger. I felt like I could take this guy. So, you know, they should be able to. So, yeah. Evil Eye, again, a solid premise that was poorly executed, you know, and there's some good acting there, but it's not enough to elevate a very, very weak delivery. So Evil Eye gets a 4 out of 10. And we're gonna keep this train moving right to the next one on my list, my number 2, which is Nocturne. And Nocturne tells the story of an incredibly gifted pianist who makes a Faustian bargain to overtake her older sister at a prestigious institution for classical musicians. This one was directed by Zoe Quirk and stars Sydney Sweeney, Madison Isman, and Jacques Coleman, just to name a few. And I apologize if I butchered most of those names. Now, Nocturne is a story I've also seen before. We've seen stuff like this, you know. Black Swan is one of the best examples of this whole premise done right, you know. We have here a young girl. I think they're twins, actually. If they're not close in age, they're twins. Can't really remember. And these two sisters, they're both very gifted when it comes to playing the piano. But one is definitely a bit more gifted than the other. She's a popular one. She has a great life. She has great friends. She has a cool boyfriend. She has everything going for her. So her sister, she just sits in the background and takes whatever scraps is left to her. At least that's how she feels about everything that's happening. And the movie does open with a suicide, you know, so trigger warning for anyone out there who may not want to see something like that. And after this happens, it turns out that that girl was like the prima, not ballerina, but you know, the star of the school they were attending for musical arts. And she left behind a notebook this notebook falls into the hands of Juliet, the sister who feels like she's not loved enough and not popular enough and all these things. So she takes the notebook and she tries to study these images that she finds in the book and what they may mean. And of course this leads her down a very devilish path where these prophecies start to fulfill themselves due to her actions. And it seems like she's getting everything she wants, but you know what they say, be careful what you wish for. This film was stronger than the rest to me. I would say because first of all, it's well shot. The premise is a much better executed premise. You know, we have here that whole jealousy, envy thing that you see. And the character, the way the actress plays the character of Juliet, at times she makes you sympathize and you feel sorry for her. But as it goes along, I really disliked this character. I really did. But I think in the best ways possible, in that I hated what she was doing, because I hate when people feel sorry for themselves, you know. And I felt like she was using her own self-pity as almost like an excuse for her behavior, for what she was doing. But then when I would want to really hate her sister Vivian, who's a popular one, she would say or do something that was, you know, you'd be like, oh, come on, this is your younger sister, you know, try to be happy for her, try to help her, you know. But you could tell Vivian also feeds off of all the positivity she gets, you know, so she doesn't really care that her sister feels slighted. She acts like she cares, but she doesn't really care. So you swing back and forth as to how you feel about Juliet. And I like that. I like when films mess with you like that. And I think the actress did a wonderful job of portraying this character, who is ultimately quite sad and doesn't feel loved, you know, the way she should. But at the same time, she's a bit responsible for what she's been getting, because there is a moment where one of the teachers points out the fact that who do you think is better, you or your sister, at this piece of music, you know. And I think she answers it's her sister, and he's like, it's not. She's just the same as you. There's no difference. The only difference is she wants it more. She's driven, she's passionate, you know, and that is why she gets ahead. So you see where there's no real excuse. It's not a matter of talent or that sort of thing. And she's been sitting there kind of wallowing in her own pity and in how she feels, and she's using it as an excuse to do all these horrible things she's doing. So I like that a lot. And the ending really messes with your head, you know, in the best ways possible. So while Nocturne, I mean, like the others, it does have pacing issues, and there's just not enough there to call this a solid horror, or, you know, it's a good thriller, but it's not a great thriller. It still delivered more of what it said it would than the other two films. And for that, I'm giving Nocturne a 5.5 out of 10. So this brings me to the film that I think was the best of the bunch. And that film was Black Box. Black Box was directed by Emmanuel Osei-Kuffour. Again, I'm apologizing for my pronunciation of these names. And stars Mamoudou Athie as Nolan, Felicia Rashad as Lillian, and Troy James as the Backwoods Man, just to name a few. And Black Box tells a story of a man who, after losing his wife and his memories in a car accident, he decides to undergo an agonizing experimental treatment that causes him to question who he really is. Now this, I believe, was the directorial debut of Osei-Kuffour, and it was an extremely strong outing, in my humble opinion. First of all, this film looks really good for what it is. Again, a small budget film. All of these films, they don't look bad in any way. You don't be like, oh, this is so low budget. There's nothing like that. But this had a little bit more polish to it, and I really liked that. The score, the sound design, everything works really well within this world. And the acting here, now this film is basically carried by one actor. It's not that the acting isn't solid by everyone, but it's his story, and he does a great job of conveying what this character is going through. And that's, of course, Mamoudou Athie as Nolan. Nolan is this character. He, like I said, he lost his wife in a car accident. He's gotten some brain injuries and he can't remember stuff, and he has this frustration because of that. He also has a daughter, who he has to take care of. So he wants his life back. He wants his memories back. So he knows what kind of man he is, what kind of man he wants to be, and what kind of father he can be, you know. So he decides to undergo this experiment. Felicia Rashad plays the doctor in charge of the experiment. It was really nice to see her. I haven't seen her in anything, I think, since Creed, you know, and it was nice to see her, especially in a role such as this, which I'll get into. So he undergoes this experiment using something she calls a black box, you know, to tap into his memories. And when that happens, he does start to remember things like his wedding day and his wedding night and all these sorts of things. But he's also remembering some very dark and violent things that makes him question what kind of man is he, and his friends hiding things from him. Maybe he was abusive, you know, he doesn't know, but it's scaring him. And during these episodes, he also sees this man who almost bent and broken, doing this spider walk from Exorcist, that keeps trying to come to him. All the faces in his visions, as well in his dreams, his memories, are all blurred. So he's not 100% sure about what is happening and what he's seeing. Black Box is almost like you take elements of Total Recall and you just kind of take out the huge sci-fi action aspect of it and you put it in here. So it has that Total Recall feel to it, with what's going on with his character of Nolan. And like I said, the actor does such a great job of conveying the confliction of what's happening in him, which personality is the real personality, why are these things happening. Felicia Rashad, I think, also she doesn't overdo it. Her character is duplicitous in what she's doing, and I think that it was kind of cool to see this character, who, you know, you picture as one of the best moms that was ever on television, when she started in the Cosby Show, as this type of twisted character, almost like a Dr. Frankenstein type character. And it actually works for her. She did a great job there. So the whole feeling, the way this is directed, the use of the sound design, especially when you're hearing that cracking sound of the bones in the twisted man or the broken man, all of these moments are really well done. And even though Black Box is not, it's not a gory film, it's not super horrific, it's definitely a solid thriller. And when everything is revealed and the way everything unfolds, I quite liked how this film ended as well, you know, because it leaves some stuff up in the air, that I kind of dig, maybe revisiting this film as a sequel. Granted, the events that happen in this film can stand on their own. It would be interesting to see if they can have a sequel, a solid sequel made out of this. I'm trying not to give away anything, guys, because of course, you know, like every other thriller, there's a big reveal to what's happening, but I think I may have given it away when I said Total Recall. For a debut, for an initial outing, this was a very well crafted, solid editing, good pacing, well acted film. And of all of the films that was under Welcome to Blumhouse, Black Box was definitely by far the one that delivered on its premise. So because of this, I'm giving Black Box a 6.5 out of 10. And that's it for the 4 films, guys. I was disappointed by this, I'm not gonna lie, because yeah, Blumhouse, you know, the thing with Blumhouse is it's like you roll dice and you hope for the best. But recently they've been delivering. I mean, they gave us one of the best horror films of 2020, which was The Invisible Man. And they tend to put out some solid genre work of recent years. So it was disappointing to see that they had 4 films and only one really knocked it out the park. The others just kind of barely skated by, you know. it made me miss the days of I don't know if you guys anybody knows about this After Dark films. They every year they would do something called 8 Films to Die For. It had such good stuff came out of that. I remember the Hamiltons, Grave Encounters. It had some really good solid horror movies came out of that, and I would look forward to it every year. And for them, at least it was 8 films, and I would say it was 50-50. You got at least 4 really good movies out of that, you know, so it was worth investing your time in. Whereas what Blumhouse did here, I mean, it just wasn't good enough, you know. Most recently, 50 Stages of Fright, that was so much better than this. Creep Show television series, that was so much better than this. Granted, this wasn't a television series, but it most definitely, it just didn't live up to its potential. So who knows, maybe if they try it again next year, they'll have more success. Hopefully they'll learn from their mistakes and they'll course correct. And that's gonna be it for this one, guys. So I hope you enjoyed this. Again, I'm sorry about what happened with Ratchet and that stuff, but you know how it goes. If you liked this video, please feel free to hit that thumbs up button. It's always appreciated, guys. If you'd like to subscribe to my channel, you can click on my face when it pops up right about there, and for past videos you can check those out right along there. So until next time, guys, bye bye.